Welcome to Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse. Innovative Strategy is a show designed to help people with their business and personal financial literacy, but not in the way that you have known. This is not your grandpa's financial literacy, as Bill uses his 30 plus years in the financial industry to stretch your financial box from, let's say about a 30,000 foot view of things. Bill and his guests have helped hundreds of clients achieve and surpass their financial goals. If you have any questions, please email Bill at billhasse, that's Bill at billhasse.com, or reach out to him right here at 216thenet at gmail.com. I always want to run it out, but we'll do a hard cut right there. Today, idea climbing. Bill, how are you?
Good morning. How you doing?
I am well, happy, healthy, and terrific, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Enjoying the beautiful weather.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got to here in the upper Midwest. Are we upper Midwest? I would think so. Northern Illinois. Ish. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like 72 degrees. Fun, but hey, we got a really special guest on today. This is our second time ever on the show. We've had an author. If you remember, we had Laura Di Benedetto here with 6 Habits. A fantastic book, fantastic person. And we again are blessed with another fantastic book and fantastic person, Mr. Mark Carter, who has written a book called The Idea Climbing. A really very interesting book I've had the pleasure of reading. And like I've told Mark, I said, I'm actually living this book right now. And it's spot on to what I've been doing. And so I can really dive into this and love this, what he's done and how he's done it. So let's bring Mark on. Mark, welcome. Thanks for coming on our show. Awesome book.
Crowd goes wild.
Crowd goes wild. That's beautiful new sound effects.
That's right.
But welcome, Mark.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Now, Mark and I have known each other for a little while here and had many conversations. And I've been waiting quite a while for this book to finally reach its goal of being published. And it's out in public. It can be bought. See, scrolling along the bottom there, you can go to www.ideaclimbingbook.com. You can find it on Amazon. I do highly recommend this book. It is a very different way of looking at how to bring a big idea to fruition and to building a business. And it's not a how-to book. It's more of a stories of Mark has interviewed, I don't know how many people, but many, many, many people, very high-level people. I'm going to quote some of them throughout the show here, but for 22 years, right, Mark?
Yeah, it's been a combination of interviewing successful people and then people that were just slightly out of reach. I would get a biography or autobiography, or obviously if they had passed, and I would use that as a source to get the stories for the book. So it's a mix of interviews and reading autobiographies and biographies.
And it's funny. It's interesting how many of these people have very similar thoughts that sometimes we think are the opposite of what we've been taught. For instance, spread the word. Go out there and tell the whole world you got this great idea. And a lot of times people, like with me and what I'm doing, people have told me, they go, shh, why are you telling everybody? Somebody could steal that from you. And I tell them, good luck.
Exactly.
Good luck trying to do, what I've been building, because most people would most likely stop before they've gotten as far as I've gotten, because it's not easy.
Hmm.
It's a difficult challenge, but you bring in this book together stories of the challenges people have had and how they have survived and gotten through and push onward. Some big names, Michael Dell. There's a quote in here from Bo Jackson. I get it.
And Bo knows.
Bring that one up because I loved this quote. that he says, if you have doubts about anything you want to do, you've already failed. And that really resonated with me, because I think if you're going to build a business, there's going to be times where you're going to have doubts, and that's what stops people from taking that big idea and bringing it all the way to success.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling stories about how other people, and many people, how they've done that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's amazing how many people, the ones I interviewed, I could skew it a little bit with, well, how has mentoring changed your life? Because that's a big part of it. How has relationship marketing changed your life? But even the people that I read in books, it's the similarities were uncanny when I really dove into it. Like, oh my God, this is like the 10th person that's done this. They don't directly, idea climbing wasn't around, so they're not using all the exact same terminology. But as far as what they did, it's, whoa, there is a lot of similarities here, a lot more than I thought I'd find.
Yeah, it's not specific things that they did necessarily. It's more generalized things that they've done. And you talk about whether it's relationship marketing, right? Mentoring, connecting with other people, the importance and the value of that. And you and I are networkers. We're very well seasoned at that, and we understand the value that you just never know who can bring what to the table. So it's as you put it in your book, it's not about just talking to certain specific people. It's about getting the word out. All kinds of people, both that are like-minded and unlike-minded, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you need to unlike too.
So why is that important?
Well, if you only have like-minded people, and this is something that I've seen as far as in person and watching people over the years and watching the people that, aspired to reach goals and reached them, the people who aspired to reach goals and didn't, it's an echo chamber. If everyone's just saying yes, that's great, I love you, you're great, I love you, that they probably do, but you need outside views. A perfect example is a good friend of mine, New York Times bestselling author, TV personality. I thought it would be a slam dunk. Sent the book. She said, give me, I forget what it was. Let's say 4 months, something to read it. Because she said, I'm going to read the book cover to cover, and then I'll get back to you. So, I'm anxiously waiting. Like, here comes the testimonial. And then she comes back with, this could be 8 books. I can't put my name on it. Because of her, I reworked the entire book, shifted. I mean, I can't even tell you the kind of work I did on it. Then once it was done the second time around with completely being overhauled, she's now the back cover testimonial of the book, one of my favorite ones. If she hadn't said that to me, I could have gone to market with something that was not ready to go to market. But she actually had, I think, some people would say audacity. I think the friendliness to just as a friend and a mentor to say, look, I can't put my name on this. And then the second one, like I said, boom, done. And she loved it. But I needed to hear an unlike mind share advice with me so I could climb higher and do something better than I could have ever done alone.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to read Kent's mind right now and just say, because I know he's wondering, what was your inspiration for writing this book?
The inspiration was I knew I would want to write a book. I tried when I was much younger, in my 20s. It just didn't work out for a whole lot of reasons. I was just way too young. And I realized it was actually a few mentors that told me when I was talking about, maybe I'll get back to writing this book. Let's see how it goes. They said, all this work you've been doing for whatever years at the time, if you have the patience, that can be a book. And when I started writing it, I started using it, because this is not my perspective of the world. This is me dissecting other people's perspectives and what they did. And I became my own first client. And my big idea was to bring this book to life. And it took a long time, but I realized how many people out there, when I started the relationship marketing, talk to everyone across the board, and so many people, especially entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial people responsible for their own income, even if they're technically employed by someone else, they feel alone. And I think, like, starting a business especially, oh my God, it's a daunting task when you have support, much less when you don't. Or even for the book, so many entrepreneurs, so many people, speakers, whatnot. If you write a book, you make more money, you have credibility. A lot of them don't start it, though, and that's why my book failed, because I was writing in a vacuum of what I thought sounded good. with idea climbing, as I wrote it, I involved publishers, anyone that would listen to me and give me some time and, hey, will you review this part of the book? Publishers, friends, mentors, the entire way through, market down to let's create a marketing plan for the book. Okay, let me I got my publisher introduced to me, so I didn't have to try 20 different publishers before finding the right one. It only took me 2 tries, and then a friend introduced me to the publisher I used. But it's that's why I wrote the book, is to give people have people be able to breathe life into a big idea, because ideally a big idea is about purpose. It's bigger than you, that you're going to share something with the world. And if people have said, oh, what's your legacy? People, because of this book, because of idea climbing, I did this. That's what I want people to say. Because of this body of work, I started a business. I wrote a book. I became a better father, whatever it might be. And that's why I wrote the book.
I love that you say you became your own first client. And that also the value and importance of how a friend introduced you to the publisher. So somebody whom you had spoken with, who you had informed about having a big idea, and that person then wanted to help you, and that's a really important part of your book, in connecting to folks and everything. Good morning, Deb.
Yeah. Deb says,
thanks for joining in.
Yep. She says, good morning. I appreciate the comment about diversity of opinion and the importance of surrounding yourself with different viewpoints. That soliciting feedback from others, be it good, bad, or ugly, is necessary and critical for success.
It is, but I think a typical entrepreneur has a mindset that I'm on my own. I have to figure this out, and I have to come up with everything. All the ideas. I have to come up with the funding. I have to come up with the plan. And you all of a sudden, as an entrepreneur, you find yourself telling people why I wear a lot of hats. And your book shows the true value of what I've learned as well and what Deb has pointed out. Get it out there. Get your idea out there, because people want to help, right?
They definitely do, and you just have to ask. It's amazing with mentoring, especially if it's an undergrad students if it's undergrad students I'm talking to, or newer startups, about mentoring. They're I don't have anything to give back. What's how am I get a hold of the CEO or the serial entrepreneur or the venture capitalist? On the other side of the coin, I always asked for them. That was just in my DNA since my early 20s. To me, I just said, I'm going to go find successful people and talk to them. What's the worst they could do? Say no? And almost everyone said yes. And that's that chapter on asking, is that if you just ask for help, it's nuts how many people will help you. And especially if you're in the earlier stages, because once you get established, then it can become, well, what do you really want with this interview? Is it you can try and land me as a client? But when you're fresh, that's why I tell people, the younger, the better. And it could be age younger. It could be the process of your big idea younger. Like Bill, yours is technically young still. People want to help.
A lot of people might
just have to
argue
ask.
Yeah.
The busy, successful people don't walk around broadcasting, oh, if you need any help, here's my phone number. Oh, if you want help, here's my email. But if you go ahead and ask them, and I tell people, just say 20 minutes. These days on Zoom, phone call was what it used to be. Just 20 minutes of your time, make it easy for them to say yes. If you just say, can we have a call? Or even worse yet, if you don't know them, can we meet? It's like, I don't have an hour, even if I can walk to the coffee shop. And they just say no. Put it out there. Can we set up a call, even 20 minutes? Here's why I'm asking you. Here's what I've read about you. I would love to talk with you about that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's, in my mind, I'm sitting here going, boy, if I have to reach out to CEOs and people that are high up the food chain in the corporate world and whatnot, I'm thinking, A, they're really busy. B, they're not going to want to talk to me, because who am I? Right. But and you kind of start trying to find reasons not to do it. Right. You're self-defeating. And like you pointed out, you said, I don't care. And I love that attitude, because I think once you take that attitude and you have that mindset, and this is really about a mindset, this book is helping to teach, I think, in some ways, that you need to have the right mindset in order to take that big idea and run with it. And you have to be prepared. I mean, you talk about, you have to define what your big idea is. You need to be passionate about it. Connect with a bigger purpose. And these are things that I've done with this new business and my partner Deb. Create a compass, direction of where you're going, design the plan. We talk about planning all the time, and so many people don't write down a plan, whether it's an executive summary, a pitch deck, along those lines, because it kind of holds you accountable and it keeps you focused. But then you can say, go out and meet people, and that'll change your plan, right? Because people that want to help you will tell you things that I didn't even think of that.
Well, it's also getting with what you just said to get started with the compass. I found the younger people who were successful had a very clear direction, and they stuck to it. Mark Zuckerberg did not try and start 6 different websites. Technically, he had some face mashup thing. So technically, he did have one other one before Facebook. But Facebook, and then boom, full steam ahead. And I'm guessing, I haven't met him, that the people he surrounded himself with became like, okay, we don't need to throw sheep anymore. Take that off of Facebook. Instead of that, put something that's actually more useful. But it's the people that made success, even if they succeeded at a different age or a little bit older, it's because they finally landed somewhere, found a direction to move in, and stuck with it.
Yeah, no, and I would venture to say that, well, first let's say hello to Shanna. Thank you for chiming in here, Shanna. So I find most entrepreneurs would love to be tapped for advice. I agree. Entrepreneurs love to talk about what they do know about. Many times the vibe is similar to giving an athlete to walk down memory lane. It brings joy if asked correctly. That's true. It does, because people want to share. People want to help. You ask almost anybody, ultimately, what do they do? And you're going to find more often than not, it comes down to, I help people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's what we want to do. It's take your gift and share it with others. Don't hold on to it. It was given to you to share, in my mind. But, and you and I talked about this the other day, and, like I say, what I'm doing now in the business I'm building with Deb is it's a calling for us. So, and the difference between being passionate about building a business and it being a calling is I don't have a choice in this calling. I'm compelled to build this business. We're a different mindset, and a different type of entrepreneur might say, I have this great idea. I love it. I'm going to run with it. And he's passionate about it. He or she is passionate about it. And to me, that's a different mindset. And you talk about mindset.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's passion, and this is not me. There's a phenomenal 2-minute video. If you Google, I think that you just need to Google passion and purpose, and it's usually on the first page of the results. But passion is what gets you up in the morning. It's why you get out of bed. It's why you do what you do and go about your day. Purpose is what you do for others. And purpose is what will bring others to you if they see you're trying to help other people. They want to be part of it. You just have to ask and have that mindset of, I'm going to talk to everyone under the sun. And just a quick sidebar, if someone's afraid, then fine. Like with idea climbing, I trademarked it. It's not like it was just Willie. I figured let's protect it, spend whatever dollars. It's trademarked. I feel safe. Go out and do it. But I like what you said, Bill. A lot of people, they don't know what the next steps are. They just need to ask someone, and here's what you could do. Or here's what you could do to write a book. Here's the chunky method. Write this many words a day, set aside this much time. Just all the writing tips and tricks that authors had. I would have just wrote till I was tired, as opposed to, there's actual methodologies you can use to write a better book.
So just going to step in here. The book that we're talking about is Idea Climbing. And if you go to www.ideaclimbingbook.com, they'll take you right over to Amazon where you can order it. It's out there on Kindle, or you can get the hard copy of it if you like to flip pages. And it's just absolutely a fantastic book. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. Just a quick question. I haven't read it yet. I will. Is you talk about 8 pillars. there's a lot of, even though there's a lot of entrepreneurs, 7 million, as Deb has said, since January of last year. Do these concepts and ideas also work well for intrapreneurs? Because there's a lot of our listeners out there who, don't want to take that risk of owning their own business, but might have a pretty good spot inside of somebody's business. Does the idea climbing concept work well for those people too?
As long as they have autonomy with what they do, how they market themselves. An example of how it might not work, which you guys know better than me, I've hit some financial industry professionals like, no, I have to get so much approval. Just put something out on LinkedIn. It's not happening. So in those cases, I'd have to say, no, ma.
It's the devil called compliance.
Yeah.
But if they have autonomy internally, then yes, it can help them. It's just people they reach out to. They're heading up the project. They're responsible for getting results. Definitely. It wouldn't be for somebody, say, in HR.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. There are some things in the book I think that can be effectively used by a variety of different folks. But, this is for the even if you're inside that area, Kent, I think you can use it because I think the corporate world has changed. There's a big shift going on. There's no longer just a corporate ladder, a single ladder. Everybody's got to climb up and claw their way up. Or on a show I did with Nicole Martin, she talked about this and said it's more like a lattice. So you can find different ways to climb up that world, and that is more of an entrepreneurial minded type of person that's going to do that. And that's allowing for greater creativity. And I think that's where your book can come into play for somebody like that. But we did have I'm sorry, go ahead.
One group that was recently suggested to me, I have not gone deep into the group yet, but an example of someone who's employed are fractionals, particularly fractional CFOs, where they're phenomenal at what they do, but when they were in corporate America, they weren't tasked with heavy networking and business development. And now all of a sudden, as a fractional, they're realizing, oh my God, I have to hunt. Yeah. What do you mean? Where's the business? And something like that was suggested to me. I am going to chase it and give it a shot and see how it goes. But I do believe that's an example of something that's internal that could use idea climbing without having to own a company outright.
Nice.
Yeah, I can see just so many people could benefit from if when we read books and we talk to people, we don't take everything that is said or everything that is written and run with it. We take bits and pieces that we find are valuable and important to where you're at your point. Deb had a good point. There are about 7 million new light entrepreneurs. We call them that because they have gone out and sought to start an LLC or an S corp, sole proprietorship or something like that. So they've registered, and these are folks that are all out there trying to start new businesses. And the interesting thing is this show is about how to help you build that business. And because we know how hard it is, and we know that so many people fail because they don't plan properly. They just think, okay, I've got all this experience. I know people need it. And if I just put my, sign out on the door, they're going to start banging it down and come to me. And it doesn't happen.
No.
It never, ever happens that way. I think Mark Zuckerberg could probably quit his job and go put a sign on a door, and people might bang that down. But for us lay folks and normal, average, everyday kind of people, that's not true. I like what Deb points out. She said this to me so many times. It's like you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So seeking help and that's another thing about why I like the way you've done this book, the storytelling. You talk about several different famous people and the trials and tribulations that they had to go through. Most all of them were broke or beyond broke and in debt at some point in their careers, and yet they've gone on to be highly, highly successful billionaires.
Well, look at if people like one of the best-selling books, over 100 million copies, Think and Grow Rich. I believe, according to the biography from the Napoleon Hill Foundation, the author of Think and Grow Rich, he had a funder sponsor for a book. It was The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. So actually a whole series of books, whatever, ready to go. He had the stories in the book, tons of like, oop, I made it. Nope, I made it. Nope, I made it. Nope, I made it. Nope. And then he made it this time. The guy who was going to partner with him to fund the project got gunned down by the mafia in his driveway. Napoleon Hill had to go up into the woods. And I believe according to the biography, I want to say like 41, 42 in that general area, and hide out for almost a year until the people that did it were arrested because he couldn't show his face in the town where he was at. It's stories like that I love to find, like, whoa, I got nothing. Never mind my complaints. Life is good.
Well, thanks for the reminder not to deal with certain types of folks that can literally kill an idea. But and you tell so many good stories like that in here, but you do it to make certain points, right? Whether you have a story in each section of your book to focus on. This is how you've accomplished. This is how this person got past this and accomplished it. But I love how you bring up, failed, and then successful.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be prepared. Just like if you're a salesperson, you have to be prepared that people are going to say no to you more often than yes. And your idea may be a great idea, but it may not come to fruition because you're going about it the wrong way, not because it's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that because that Deb and I are trying to build this financial literacy program, and I have been told flat out by people that don't even try. It's not worth it. I've tried for 20 years and it can't be done. And I'm sitting there going, well, I'm thinking it's only because you couldn't figure out how to do it. And it's because you tried to do it on your own and you didn't work with others and learn from others how to bring it, how to get it to the market. So,
Mm-hmm.
And Deb said, we all have many ideas, and not all are created equal. What processes do you recommend to vet an idea to make sure it's worthy of climbing?
That is an awesome question, and I chunk that into the mentorship part of the book. And what it is specifically when you go into mentoring, I call them experiences, because one conversation can change your life, and sometimes a person's only going to give you one conversation. And to me, the point of mentoring is to walk away with advice, support, and or connections. The advice is experiential advice. When I was in your shoes, here's what I did or didn't do. Support, Deb, is what you're talking about. It's validation of an idea based on their experiences. You're moving in the right direction, keep going, pat you on the back, move you along, or I've been there. You might want to go left. I know you think you have to go right, but just give left a chance. And they support you by saying, here's a story, here's what I did, but the key being they're experiential. It's not opinions. Some of the people that love you the most will be more than happy to share opinions. All they are is opinions. I'd stay away from those.
Also, we'd be remiss if we didn't say that you have, besides this great book, which people can get at, www.ideaclimbingbook.com. But you also do an Idea Climbing podcast. You've got about 65 episodes or so out there.
Yes.
That's out on your website. That kind of covers a lot of the same stuff, right?
Yeah, the tagline is conversations about mentoring, marketing, and bringing big ideas to life. Those are the buckets. However, I'm happy to color outside of the lines. I had a serial entrepreneur that wanted it, and just the nth degree. When I looked him up, it's like, why are you talking to me? Oh my God. And he wanted to talk about manifesting things in your life. I'm like, dude, I got nothing on you. Let's do it. How to manifest great things in your life. Yes. The podcasts, though, are very much the podcasts are very much to give you something you can use to create some kind of action in your life. And I like it because I'm meeting amazing people. And it also is a business driver without me being pushy. And this is in the book. Podcast is one of those things. You can get in touch with people that you never could meet without a podcast.
So
I am meeting and learning from amazing people. And now one of the clients who followed the podcast said, well, if his advice is that good in the podcast, I wonder what it would be like to work with them. I didn't have to pitch them. And it's no mistake. But business is about mentoring, marketing, and bringing big ideas to life. The podcast is about mentoring, marketing, and bringing big ideas to life. One of the guys I interviewed, he told me that was his strategy. He said, you would think as a B2B podcast company, they produce them and they do an awesome job. We would have a podcast about podcasting. And this is when I was running podcastingadvice.com. And he said, but we don't. Podcasters don't keep our lights on. B2B marketers do. You know what our podcast is about? B2B marketing. I shut down podcastingadvice.com, said I'm just going to invest my time and energy into idea climbing and then eventually the YouTube station. So, yeah, thank you for mentioning it. It's a great one. The people on there are just awesome.
Yeah, I was checking some of that out going into the show, and I'm like, ooh, I need to go listen to that one. That one looks great. So yeah, if you're out there again, I think Bill shared it out there on it. It's just markjcarter.com/idea climbing. And if
you want to skip it, you can go to ideaclimbing.com and it'll redirect you right there.
There you go. Awesome. That's good stuff.
Yeah, that's wonderful stuff. I've watched a number of your shows, and podcasting is something that has come about, really grown tremendously since the pandemic. It was who moved my cheese kind of a thing. We shifted, and many of us. I mean, this show is a live radio show right now, but it will go on to 4, 5, 6 podcast stations once we're done here, concluded. But and actually, we're moving this show over to Futures Television as well. But and that's how it grows. Because I started by doing like 2 and 3 and 4 minute little clips myself on Facebook and LinkedIn. I wanted to keep my face out there. I wanted to keep my name out there. And I thought, what can I do? So I learned how to do these short clips. And everybody says, do this and do that. And it's short. And the shorter, the better. And then it grew into talking with Kent, whom I've known for years, and saying, hey, you got the radio station. Why don't I just do something over there once a week? And then that got me into Butterfield Studios and doing a TV show. And it's because your name gets out there. People see who you are, recognize you, and reach out to you and want to help you and have ideas. And it's like, I'll listen. I'll listen all day long, because you just never know where it can lead to and who it can reach. When you talk about mentoring, Mark, in that section of the book, one thing I really liked was asking the right questions. And I love this because I mentor some high school kids here in my area in their business program. And I found you were saying the mentor should talk 20% of the time and the mentees should be talking 80% of the time. And boy, that rung a bell with me, because I think I'm doing it the opposite way.
No, it's flip. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. And because it's about asking the right questions, specifically that you point out in your book, and you talk about, here's a bad question, and here's a better way to ask that type of a question. Can you go into that a little bit? Or?
Yeah, it's just to make it specific. A very common one when I was a mentor at one of the largest incubators in Chicago for startups. One of the most common things they do, and it was heavy tech. How do I get funding? And the real question then it becomes, if they do it the right way, it's why don't I get funding? Why don't I have funding? Oh, I need advice. This is a mentoring experience that they can walk into the office for. Oh, I need advice about how to create a pitch deck is completely different than I need better networking skills. Is completely different than, I need to build a team to put in the deck. I need a CEO. I need a CFO. So why don't you have funding? Why don't you have X? And then you know what to ask a mentor in a mentoring experience. I'm college students. I'm looking for my first job. I'm about to graduate. Well, why don't you have the job yet? Oh, interview skills is different than the way you dress. Is different than people skills and networking in general. So whatever you don't have something, ask why don't you have it, and then move into mentoring.
Yeah, that really struck a chord with me in that section. You in several chapters. Well, here you have connecting, how to create collaborative cohorts of like and unlike minds. Where are you going in that? Where are you going with that?
With connecting collaborative cohorts, it's building whether it's a virtual advisory board or groups of friends, and I'll do one of them and talk about collaborative experiences, virtual mastermind groups. You just have to surround yourself with people. You have to give them value also. So everyone in the mastermind group gets value. Connecting with people, that's where like and unlike mind come in. Is that I'm going to be talking to people, but everyone's saying yes to me. I need sounding boards for the people that are going to say a little bit different, or maybe you should go down this different road. And that's what it segues into the experiences, which is how you can create more collaborative conversations. Podcasting is one of them. It's a collaborative experience between you and the other, at least, even if it's just two people, it's still collaborating with the person you're interviewing.
Yeah, I mean, you start off in the book saying, your big idea plus your relationships equals new results. New results being that you have these relationships that you've developed and with like and unlike-minded people, and that opens up the world to you to be able to take a new direction that you may not have thought of, and maybe you're stuck, like writer's block.
I'm not even going to get into writer's block. That freaking book. Let's just leave that one on the shelf. Pun intended. With the people that you're talking to, one thing that's important is don't just, even if it's like minds, don't just talk to friends. Talk to people on the outskirts that you just know casually, but you're not going to necessarily call them up to have a beer or coffee just for the sake of going out. That's a good friend. The outskirts can jump in and give you advice and awesome support and let you know one way or the other, because they're not your best friend, one of your best friends who has a vested interest, wants to make you feel good about yourself. And those can eventually become closer relationships. I mean, Bill, look at you and I. It's at least 2 years. But you were on the outskirts. I'm writing the book. I'm working on a podcast. You have these interviews. And we just kept it was enough to keep it going. And then click, okay, we found the connection. But if I only went to my close friends, you and I wouldn't be in the studio right now. I'd be talking to my close friends, having coffee and beer.
That's another thing you bring up in your book that I found important and valuable is people tend to get stuck with one and done, right? You get in networking groups and you're doing so to meet interesting people, to have interesting conversations, but we typically do that one-on-one once. And then we let it die, and then we find out, that we have this whole big CRM full of all these names and all these people that we've only spoken to once, and we've never gone back. And then you find out, and as you pointed out in the book, that's actually a great resource to have to go back to and to re-engage with people instead of having to go out and keep finding new people. Can you tell me a little bit about that part of the book?
Yeah, what that came from was I do have a CRM, an awesome one. It has reminders for what we're talking about called Nimble.com. I also use, even more than Nimble.com, I use an Excel spreadsheet, and this sounds so old school, and that's why I have a CRM. I get it. You cannot rely on Excel. I'm there. I'm not a proponent of only Excel. But it's so easy for me to just scroll through an Excel spreadsheet. And I was talking to my friends and whatever hundreds of people that were on there, especially during when the pandemic was really bad and we're all locked inside. He said, that's great. But how many second conversations are you having? How many third conversations are you having? And I realized, oh my God, I'm not. And then I started, when something was interesting, and I know we've done this, Bill, is if a conversation is good, initially I said, well, here's my Calendly link so you can get on my calendar at your leisure. When it was really good, it became, let's schedule a call before we hang up, let's schedule a call for 4 weeks out and send a calendar invite in the moment, let them accept it in the moment, and then move on to your next call. But it's those second, third, fourth calls where the no like and trust factor, the no like and trust cycle, I should say, or spectrum, whatever you want to call it, you're building trust, what I call emotional equity, and do as much as you can to help other people first. And one of the best things I can tell you, and I'm getting back into this, is with people who are up to it. I'd say, if do I have to ask you for an introduction? I know sometimes, Bill, if you're busy, it's like, yes, we're neck deep. I can't just take any introduction. So let me vet it first. There's other people out there, especially if they're growing, that just say, I trust you, and connect your network. It was pointed out with networking. So I forget who it was that told me this on a call, and we were both brainstorming. It's one of my podcast guests. It hasn't been released yet. And he said, what would you rather, if you would only have so much time in a day, what would you rather have in your inbox? A newsletter or a valid introduction to somebody who could help you? It's like, I'll take the introduction all day long. So that's the brand that I'm building with my network. Is they're going to start seeing, there already are certain people, key people that send to me, I reciprocate. But that's one thing that I'm building into my daily tasks now, is connecting at least one person a day, if not more. But that becomes another touch point.
I had a really great conversation with Laura Di Benedetto yesterday, and we hadn't talked in a long time. And it turned out she has a new need, and I have the contact that may be able to help her. And that's through my partner, Deb, but she had no idea. And that wasn't even part of our original conversation. We were just catching up. Hey, how you doing? How's your new business going? And explaining to her what I had going on. And boom, next thing you know, out comes a need. And right away, my mind clicks and says, how can I help? And that's how it works. When you're just having conversations with people, things could really, progress and show you a path forward, because you talk in your book about that gap, right? Here's where I am. Here's where I want to be. How do I get through that gap? How do I get to that other side? And conversations, like you said, a single conversation can have a profound effect.
And it very often will too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're spot on, and getting back in touch with people and reaching back out. You brought up, sometimes we talked about this. Now, I am so busy that it's difficult for me to accept. People keep coming. Let me introduce you. Let me introduce you. Let me introduce you. And it's like, okay, I'm meeting so many people. I can't remember names. I can't remember conversations. It gets that difficult. So I say, please stop. But the reality is I don't want you to stop, because meeting new people, like you said, one conversation can have a profound effect. And you never know where that's going to come from. But I do find it important for people to say, hey, are you interested? I have someone I'd like you to meet. Here's who they are. Here's what they do. Would you have an interest in talking with that person? That's a very nice way to go about providing an introduction, as opposed to just sending an email saying, hey, Tom, meet Bill. Bill, this is Tom. You guys really should get together. Okay. Why?
You just said that's key, and I call it double opt-in. Unless it's one of the few like inner circle of people who just say, if you send me an introduction, I'm going to follow up. Even in those, though, I double opt-in. I do what you said. I email, hey, I met this person. Here's why I think they're a good connection for you. Is now a good time? And if both parties say yes, then I make the introduction, and that's important to include it in an introduction. It would be Bill meet Ken, Ken meet Bill. And after each name, I put the LinkedIn profile. And then I'm just in 2 sentences. I'm introducing you both because you're in the financial literacy area. Here's what Bill is doing. Here's what Ken is doing. And I think you two should have a conversation, even if it's just 20 minutes. Because I do agree with you. It's when I get those random ones, it's even when it's from a trusted source, it can be kind of awkward. Yeah. When it's just, hey, meet Bill, Mark, meet. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like
many different directions here.
To those people, and I meet with them, and you sit there and you look at each other in a Zoom call, and it's like, okay, why are we here?
It becomes a verbal frickin' treasure hunt. Is this it? Nope. Is this it? Nope. Is this it? Nope. Is this it? Yay! You just hope you get to the yay, because you don't always get to the yay.
No, you don't.
Right. It's like
it's like dragging. There's people in the networking groups, and we all put our contact information in the chat box and everything, and then people grab that and they start blasting you out newsletters, and they blast you out. Here's my thought of the week. well, did you think I wasn't interested? Because you didn't ask me if it was okay. You just start blasting me. And now I'm getting a lot of those. And I want to try and be supportive, but then again, I don't have time to go through all of them. So I have to, pick and choose from time to time, or just start ignoring. And that's really something you don't want to ever have happen to you. You don't want to start being ignored, because you're doing things the wrong way. And that's why that result is coming back at you. But we should look in. Shannon, I think Shannon had something else to say too, and I can't read it all.
Yep. Shana just says, I have an antenna up for different perspectives and have learned it comes from people of all arenas. It keeps me in conversations that can get contentious, but I walk away with a better understanding. It amazes me how little the end user experience is utilized, frontline people as well. What was the motive at 20 to write?
With me, the book that never saw the light of day, very traditional answer, which is they say, if you want to be, because I wanted to be a speaker at the time, now I'm a facilitator. And if you want to be a speaker, you have to have a book. And I just figured, okay, I have to have a book. So I'm writing it way too young. And I'll just start writing a book about what I learned at the time. I was certified in neurolinguistic programming and some other things. So I took some of the stereotypical things, try to get them into pages. And then he's still one of America's greatest sales coaches. He gave me like 30 minutes of his time. His name's Jeffrey Gitomer, amazing guy. And I still remember clear as day. He said, when we were talking about a book, he said, don't just write a book, write a damn good book, or don't write one at all. And that just stuck with me. And I realized this book's not going anywhere, and I put it down. So that at 20, it was people telling me you have to have a book. Idea climbing came out because I had a purpose and a mission for the book. There was something so much bigger than me with idea climbing. That's what, when I had writer's block, or I was like almost there. And it's a short read. It's like 180 pages. 164 of those are the actual book if you take out acknowledgments and stuff like that. But it was more of, I have something to share now, not I have to do this because.
But you had a purpose and a mission. Very, very important with anybody starting a business. You better have a purpose and a mission. But I like that the channel also brought up, it can come from different arenas. You don't choose to say, I'm not talking to that person because they're too young. How could they possibly help me with that? What experience could they possibly have that helps me? And you got to get past that. You got to quit judging. You got to quit, again, self-defeating mindset and talking to yourself that way. Like I said, I mentor high school kids in the business, and I learn from them. Because they ask what one might think are very basic questions, or something I might know the answer to. It's like, duh, that's easy. But it's not. It brings your mindset back, and saying, let's keep our eyes on the big picture. And so I learn from them as much as I hope they learn from me. But you can, from all different arenas and all different backgrounds of people. You do marketing, so you'll talk to other marketing people. What do they do? How do they do it? What's their success, and how do they become successful? But that doesn't mean you don't want to talk to a salesperson or an accounting person or somebody with other different backgrounds. They can help you formulate a better plan, a better way forward. Maybe they can help you drive your passion. Maybe they help you drive your mission. But it can come from anywhere, right?
Well, it definitely can. And that's why if you look at the podcast, the guests I have are very intentionally different. And I'm like, right now, I'm looking for business owners, serial entrepreneurs that have employees, just to balance it out. It ebbs and flows, and it's ebbing and flowing now with solopreneurs. So I got to bring it back in. I got to drop in a couple of serial entrepreneurs that are talking about their businesses with employees, just to keep the viewpoints fresh, so it doesn't get to just coaches or just startups or just one area of the whole business world.
Yeah, and of course, we've got Mark J. Carter with us. His book is Idea Climbing. You can find it at www.ideaclimbingbook.com. And if you just go to ideaclimbing.com, I want to say that's where they can find your podcast as well. 65 great episodes out there. Or I imagine on like Spotify, Google Podcast is probably out there as well.
It's out there on all of the factors. The one we push the most is because it is what it is Apple Podcasts. If you go to Apple Podcasts and hit Idea Climbing, you can go to my website and click on it to get it. But Idea Climbing is the first thing you find if you search on Apple Podcast.
Yeah. So it's just the great stuff. And with just some of the guests I was looking at, I was like, whoo, man, nothing against you, Mark, but I was like, I want to hear what that person has to say.
That's my goal. That's my goal from the start. And it ranges from names that you recognize between that and my YouTube station too, to I believe one of my earlier podcasts was with a 20-something that just blew me the heck. Oh, I'm like, I feel like I'm talking to a 45-year-old when we had our first one-on-one. And I forget what the niche was because 65 guests in, they kind of blur. But I had him on there because he had such a deep well of knowledge at such a young age. So I really look for the people with, that's what it is deep well of knowledge and a vertical.
That's awesome.
If it happens to be younger, great. It generally skews towards serial entrepreneurs in the B2B space, but you never know who you're going to find. And like I said, that's one of the things, that's one of my big asks with people is podcast guests.
Yeah, it's because it's a different mindset between a solopreneur and an entrepreneur who has employees.
Yes.
You know, and this show that we're doing here, Innovative Strategies, is to kind of go from that concept to building up and having employees, and then we bring the show over and we have for the TV we do conversations with the CEO, a different mindset. Right now that you've made it, you've gotten over the hump of getting started up and running, you've got some success. Now where's your mindset at? So I like that thought. I wanted to bring up a different aspect of the book though, because you have this pointed out several times: thriving, supportive, neutral, and toxic. You want to talk about that, or no?
That's a big one. That is something that I realize with directions people are moving in, questions they're asking themselves, and that's part of the self-awareness. That's the huge part of the mindset. Is it what do people find themselves in and day out? And simply by having a checkpoint, say if it's for questions I'm asking myself and other people, why did I screw up so bad? Okay, you know what, you beat yourself up a little bit. Follow it up with what can I do to get out of this mess? What can I do to make this better? What can I do to start? External questions too is why did this problem happen? If it's your employees or you're in a group or you're a mentor, how can we solve this problem is a whole different mindset. And directions are a big one. People can start going down a hill. It can be a slippery slope, especially with the pandemic and all the weirdness afterwards of just getting back out there. Simply by realizing, wow, I'm just in a toxic or neutral, or it's supportive. That's great. And the same thing with relationships. You want the thriving ones. And there's no wrong or right per se. I tell people it's not about the people individually. It's the combination of the people that makes a difference. And one of the stories in the book is Ray Kroc and the McDonald's brothers. When Ray Kroc was getting started, he was selling tons of paper cups to restaurants, which is how he found McDonald's and shake mixers. He was awesome. He was a thriving relationship for that company. Long story short, when he bought the rights to the Golden Arches from the McDonald's brothers, they thought that they could keep their shop. He paid, I think it was like $2 or $3 million for the rights cash. And they thought, well, we can keep our shop, keep the lights on, keep some kind of extra money coming in. And Ray Kroc said, hell no, that's mine. So they opened up M Burger or the Big M or something like that a few blocks away. Ray Kroc said, screw you. And he opened it. I don't know if it was literally next to it or across the street and put him out of business just to do it. So in that case, he was a very toxic person. And that's what I like to point out with people is don't judge people. It's the dynamics. Someone that I love could be someone you hate and vice versa. It's not right or wrong. It just is what it is. And especially with relationships, by recognizing them in your life, doing an audit, even if it's once a year, of who shouldn't I be hanging around now? Because you're the sum of the 5 or 6 or 8 people you hang around the most. Who shouldn't I be hanging around with and let it go? who it's there, and even who's supportive that could be thriving. Now you're helping with my book. This is a thriving experience. It didn't exist 2 years ago when we met, but we kept in touch, and now boom, the dynamic shifts.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. We point that out, and yeah, that was a little vindictive on Ray Kroc's,
Yeah,
his actions. But yeah, he kind of was not happy with the McDonald brothers that they wouldn't really listen to him. So he said, "Fine, I'll just buy you out, and then I'll put you out of business, and I'll show you how this goes." And it kind of worked out well for Ray Kroc. So again, but the people weren't listening. The McDonald brothers weren't listening. Shanna, some of the better schools have incubator programs that are supported by gentlemen like yourselves. It's exactly what I'm involved in, helping youth to create and implement inventive ideas to fruition. I know one that invested $50,000 is already seeing returns. Win-win. Shanna, it's been my experience that the $50,000 is well outside the realm of these incubator programs. I can tell you my young men that I'm mentoring just hit kind of a wall because they're looking to get prototypes of their product made, and they were told it's going to cost $5,000, and they don't have that kind of funds. And there are certain aspects of an incubator program in these high schools where kids can win funds to help them progress in their businesses, but typically that's $500 or less. But it's true, these kids have great ideas, and I'm not going to tell you my group's idea, but I can tell you it's a good one, and it can make money. And I've introduced them to somebody that said, "You want to get this into the Walmart stores and the Targets and everything, because we can do that for you." And these kids just started going boom. Their eyes exploded, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna be huge!" And I said, "No, back up the truck. Okay, let's get a prototype made. Let's make sure this product does what you believe it does and will do. Let's test market it in your school first, and if it works well in your school, that'll spread to a couple other schools, and that's how you grow." You rarely walk into a situation where all of a sudden Walmart's going to take your product that you just thought of, and you're going to make $1 bazillion and run away happily ever after.
Well, and that's what Mark, your book is all about, right? Idea climbing is why don't you have it in Walmart? And then that's where the mentoring and everything
how do we
starts.
get it into Walmart? Yep.
Yeah. Nope. That's exactly.
Yeah. And that's a tough thing for a lot of entrepreneurs to do that you've untapped, I think, Mark, is that to give away some sauce, not necessarily the secret sauce, but hey, you've got a burger, let me put some of this on there and see if this helps out. Which sitting here in the producer's booth with this show, with the other 18, 20 shows that we have, I've got the best seat in the house because I learned, I've got a bunch of notes I've taken from today's show as well. You learn from the stories that are out there. And that's what I love. I'm really excited about, reading your book is it's a collective amount of stories that can help a ton of people.
Thank you for that. That's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah,
exactly what I was going for with the stories.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, just folks, get out there, get this book. I can tell you, like I said before, I'm living this book right now, all the way through, and I'm doing it subconsciously. I did not know this because this book wasn't out before because Mark took 22 years to write it, so I had to wait. And I couldn't wait because I got this great idea and have that passion. And John Ferreira, you have it in your book, John Ferreira points out, who is the Nimble.com gentleman, which is a CRM. He says that if you can figure out what you're passionate about, build a plan to achieve it, and then share that plan with the universe, you'll successfully reach your objective.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Listen, guys,
we're down to a minute, though.
Yep, we're right on the back end of it again. For Idea Climbing, the book from author Mark J. Carter. Go to www.ideaclimbingbook.com. That'll take you right into Amazon, where you can buy it. I think $12.99 for the paperback, and like $2 for the Kindle if you don't like paper. But yep, it's right out there, scrolling underneath, and I will share that out there as well in the comments. So great stuff, Mark. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy day to chat with us. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me. Loved it.
We wish you the greatest success with this book. I'm a huge fan. You know it. If you don't feel it from me now, get out there. This is one absolutely worth. Put it on your shelf after you've gone through it and read it.
There we go. All right, for all of us here at 216 The Net, this has been Innovative Strategies.